Welcome to Tales of Resilience, a podcast honoring the heart behind animal rescue. I'm your host, Jolene Feeney, a mental health therapist, lifelong animal lover, and founder of PAWs and Animal Rescue Hub. This is a space for real conversations with the people who care for animals when no one else can. From shelter teams and wildlife rehabbers to transporters, vet techs, and nonprofit leaders. We talk about the joy, the grief, the burnout, and the moments that remind us why we keep showing up. Whether you've lived this work or just want to understand it more deeply, thank you for listening. Let's get into today's story. This episode may include references of animal suffering and death, as well as themes of mental health, including suicide. Welcome to Tales of Resilience. I'm your host, Jolene, and today I'm joined by Nicole Perkins, the co-director of Portland Animal Welfare Team, known as PAW Team. Nicole's path into this work started in the arts and food world, but her passion for serving people led her to explore direct services, which ultimately brought her to PAW Team. What began as an interim leadership role in the middle of the pandemic became a calling, and Nicole has now been with the organization for 7 years, leading as co-director for the past 5. PAW Team is a grassroots volunteer-powered nonprofit that provides veterinary services, supplies, and wraparound support for thousands of Portland area families each year, especially for those experiencing homelessness, housing insecurity, or financial hardship. Their mission is rooted in compassion, recognizing that home is where a beloved companion animal is. Nicole brings not only leadership, but also deep humility to the work she does. I'm excited to dig in today. So welcome to the podcast, Nicole.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Well, I usually like to start out with just kind of understanding more about the organization. So
Mhm.
do you mind kind of speaking to PAW Team and what the organization ultimately does and how you're serving the community?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you summarized our work really well. We are a pretty scrappy grassroots organization. PAW Team has been in Portland for the last 25 years, so a really long time, but we're still real small. We provide free veterinary care, free pet supplies, and a lot around wraparound pet support to families in our community. At the root of it, we are here to keep pets with their people. Ultimately, we want to keep pets happy and healthy and with the people that already love them, keep them out of the shelter system, and make sure that people can afford to keep their beloved companions with them. So, we are really always centered on the human animal bond and looking at the family as a whole. That is something that I think makes PAW Team unique in the animal welfare space is that we are always keeping in mind what you call like the other side of the leash, right? Like there's the pet, but they're always with a person as well. And we have to factor all of those things when we're providing care. We are largely supported by volunteers. We do have a staff. We have a staff of 8 right now, but all of the veterinarians that provide care in our community are volunteers, and a lot of volunteer vet assistants. So a lot of medical volunteers, also a lot of non-medically trained volunteers as well who help out in other ways. We have been growing so much over the last few years. Really since its inception, but especially over the last few years. We are supporting over 3,000 families a year right now through all of our programs. And so that's through our pet supply bank as well as medical care. Yeah, that's the really nitty gritty of it. We have all kinds of programs, and I could talk forever about all of them, but I know that I tend to get into the weeds about it.
Well, I'm sure we'll be able to definitely get into the weeds of some of it, and it
Yeah.
sounds like there's just so much impact that you guys are able to provide.
Mhm.
And I'm looking forward to this conversation because we've been talking with a lot of rescues and sanctuaries.
Mhm.
PAW Team has a slightly different lean to it in that
Mhm.
animal welfare space as far as
Yeah.
providing that adjunct, all those important adjunct services. So,
Mhm.
what drew you into the world of PAW Team and animal welfare?
Yeah, I mean, I think like a lot of other people in this work, I really just wanted to help. And I've always been a huge animal person. I've always had pets or animals in my life. But I really was drawn to this specific organization for the people. As you even mentioned in my intro, I started in nonprofits after college, at least, more arts focused work. And I always balance that along food service work, which I've been doing since my teens. And I did just hit a point of burnout pretty early on in the work I was doing, where I was just stretched way too thin, and really just focused on my food career for a little while. But after a few years, the world of nonprofits and direct service work just drew me back in, and I knew that I was ready to find a role that just like enveloped me. I wanted to be connected to that work again, where it was all consuming. And I had been thinking about going back to school for social work. I knew that I wanted to do a more direct service role and work more directly with people. And I was just a little nervous. I wasn't ready to jump back into school without a little bit of experience under my belt to make sure that was the direction I wanted to go. And I had heard of PAW Team. I had heard of it as an organization, had been really interested in its work, and just hadn't been able to volunteer yet due to the times that they had shifts available. And a job popped up for a role that was a mix of a volunteer coordinator and a client coordinator. So to me, it felt like this perfect split of work that I knew I had experience with and knew that I was really familiar with, and also dipping my toes into a whole new area. Um, and I mean, I just remember the interview that I did and like the tour of the space that I got, and I just was hooked from the start. I fell in love. I was lucky to get the job, but if I hadn't, I knew that I would have been hook, line, and sinker for the work anyway, and would have continued to be a part of it. It just really draws you in. The mission captivated me, and just being here on site with the volunteers and the clients and their pets, I knew it was a space that I wanted to be a part of. It was really special. Um, as soon as I started the job, I realized that, like many nonprofits, it was, like 4 or 5 jobs put into one, and was stretched to my limit, but in a way that I loved, and I just kept leaning into the work, and here I am years later. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that seems to be a bit of a common denominator for many people who find themselves to be successful or able to kind of uh, have the stamina to exist in the world for a period of
Hmm.
time. Is the, um, I guess the at minimum the okayness with wearing multiple hats and the
Hmm.
chaos, but also probably the ability to kind of find comfort or at least thrive in some way in that.
Yes, for sure. I know that I do tend to thrive in a state of chaos, and I enjoy the variety of work. Getting to the every day is a little bit different, which at Paw Team every day truly is very different. But there are also lots of moments to just slow down here, right? Like we have something I've always been proud of at Paw Team is the time and attention that all of our staff and volunteers give all of the folks who are seeking services here. We're always balancing this like high volume and high touch approach, where it's really important to sit down with folks, talk to them individually, see what they need, and see how that we can help. So sometimes just taking those moments to slow down and like help a client find the right coat for their pet. Like it's really silly kind of in a way in comparison to some of the other work that we're doing here, but um, it can be a moment of joy both for someone accessing care and someone providing it to focus on the fun things sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't even imagine that, but when you said that, I was like, oh, that's just like a sweet moment to be able to
Hmm.
be a part of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was also thinking about you said high volume and then slow moments, and I was thinking about the that 3,000 number that you had mentioned, and you also said that you're kind of a smaller organization. So I'm trying to compute in my head, like, how are you achieving those numbers? What is
Yeah. Yeah. And we are a staff of 8 right now. When I started here, we were a staff of 4. So we've really grown a lot in that regard, which is incredible, to have extra support. Um, what it looks like is it really is a balance. We try to, so PA Team has a few different arms of care. I'll try to keep it brief. But for our veterinary care, for example, we have kind of two main modes of operation. We have a wellness and prevention program that we do in a more high volume scale. So we have drop-in clinics that we host at our location. We also bring that model offsite into the community. And that's like first come, first serve. It's really as systematic as we can get it. So people are checking in, they're getting a pretty finite package of what we can offer at a day like that: vaccines, flea and parasite control, a wellness exam. If our vets suspect that something more is going on, we'll ask them to come back to us, but we're not deep diving into diagnostics at that appointment. It's just kind of as brief and in and out as we can be so that we can accommodate as many families as possible who really do just need vaccines for their pets. Keep them up to date. Often that's required for housing and shelter. But then we also have a model of our veterinary care that's called our continued care program. And so that is for pets that have more advanced needs and more chronic needs. So pets do come back to us again and again over months, sometimes years, for long-term support. We are their primary care veterinarian. A lot of older pets with, more complicated conditions that get more and more complex as they get older. We are here to answer our clients' questions, to navigate medication changes, to navigate everything that comes along with their pets' health over the long term, and really providing that one-on-one support. And some families need more assistance than others. We have some folks that come to us who struggle with memory loss, maybe due to age or due to a traumatic brain injury. And so that might look like coming up with a dosing chart that is tailored to that person and that pet's needs, and coming in for more regular refills so they can check in with us more often. Or it could be certain kinds of medications that a person with physical limitations can do. That might mean a prescription mousse instead of a prescription shampoo because maybe that person doesn't have water or can't get their pet into a tub. There's just lots of tailoring that we'll do to make sure that we're setting the whole family up for success. And so even in our medical care, we have those two channels of like, all right, let's go, let's get those vaccines. And then also the scheduled moments that are slowed down to really give the time and attention that everyone deserves. Our pet supply bank is another arm of care that when I became the co-director, when my colleague and I both became co-directors during the pandemic, we had to shift a lot of how we operated in it because it was in the early months of COVID and nothing was normal. And we saw a lot more people in need of help, and we knew we had to shift how our service model worked. So without going into the weeds of how it used to work, we just changed our operations a bit in 2020, and our pet supply bank became open to the public as kind of not a separate arm, but just sort of an additional service that we offered instead of this kind of bonus that our clients used to have access to. So it started growing and growing, and it's just been exponentially growing every year in terms of demand. So right now we are open 3 days a week, and we see over 100 people a day. And so when it comes to those numbers, that's where a lot of that comes from. Sometimes people come to our pet supply bank who um, don't need veterinary care, or they come to us and they do need care, but are still waiting to get vet care. The wait time for veterinary services is longer. They can just come to the pet supply bank that day and get supplies. Um, Sometimes folks are out of work temporarily and just need us for a few months. And sometimes people come every single month and will for a long time. So that's where we see a huge jump in numbers, and also just a diversity in the kinds of folks who are in need too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So addressing a lot of different needs. And
Hmm.
said, as you're kind of introducing part of the mission, which is to basically keep these animals with their
Hmm.
family members out of the shelter cycle,
Hmm.
which is obviously incredibly important given this crisis that just seems to be never ending.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, our clients, again, come to us from different places in their life, and their pets serve different roles in their life too. Um, Many of our clients, we don't see their pets until they are older and developing problems. And it's because Perhaps a young, healthy cat was manageable for someone on a very fixed income for a long time. They got vaccines every few years, they're indoor, whatever, no problem. Um, but one, as the price of veterinary care continues to grow, the number of people who can afford it is shrinking. What used to be, maybe a quick exam just for vaccines is now just much more expensive than it used to be 5, 10 years ago. Um, and also, as pets get older, their needs become more complex. So then someone might need to seek out veterinary services, maybe not for the first time, but at least for the first time where it starts to really accrue expense. And then people, or the other side to that, sorry, is someone's life may change as well. We hear that from a lot of our clients. They may have been able to access services for their pets for a long time, even pets with chronic conditions, and then something in their life changes. Um, People becoming disabled at some point in their life is very common, and then no longer having access to their regular income or just losing a job. And then the months go on, and suddenly their whole world has changed, and they cannot afford their life, and they can no longer afford their pets' needs. And one of our core beliefs here is that no one should have to choose in that place, right? You shouldn't have to choose to give up your pet because something that you were unable to control has changed. Now you don't have the same access to funds. But we also want to keep pets happy and not suffering. And yeah, like avoid rehoming them and just keep them with the people who already love them and who already know them and really support that bond. I think anyone in animal welfare recognizes the bond between humans and pets, and anything we can do to preserve that bond is helpful for the pet as well as the person. We talk about the One Health model a lot in our world, which is the idea that people and pets and the environment are all connected, and so you really can't look at one in a silo. Like when a pet comes to us, they are a patient here, and of course the vets are um, doing all their doctor things. Clearly, I'm not one of the veterinarians. Um, but it is always keeping in mind that person's needs as well. And I was alluding to that with kind of our tailored care plans. But, um, what does this person have going on in their life that might impact their pet? Or what can we learn from their pet and use as a trust building model to then find the services that that person needs as well? A lot of people will seek out care for their pets before themselves, and that's something we see regularly here. So then how can we use that as a bridge? At our high volume events, we'll have other human service organizations tabling to provide resources. Maybe someone has been coming here for a bit and has begun to trust PAW team. And then there's, a recovery specialist here or a housing navigator, and then they'll take the step to talk to that person as well because they already have a trust with PAW team. Um, or if we can facilitate that even more, folks will talk about their own health needs here. Sometimes the health of pets and people are interconnected, if they're um, is a mold issue in the home that could be affecting both of them. So it's just realizing that none of us are on our own. We're all a product of our environment, and it's all interconnected.
Yeah, that's really interesting and great to know about just, all the different services and people that you want to kind of fold into the mix. I think that's
Yeah.
impactful. Yeah.
Hmm.
As a co-director,
Hmm.
what is your typical day? What does that look like for you?
There is no typical day of PAW team. It really is different, based on outside and inside factors. So just the breakdown of our organization, we do have a co-directorship model, which is something that my coworker and I proposed when our last executive director was leaving in 2020, for a couple of reasons. My co-director, she has a long background in veterinary medicine. She's been a vet assistant and a practice manager. I had more nonprofit background and not necessarily a huge fundraising background, but a capacity in fundraising, and that's what I've been doing as part of my role here as well. Um, so I we neither of us wanted to do a director role by ourselves, and we also thought that for the sustainability of the organization, a co-directorship made more sense. It would then always keep both veterinary models and general non-medical operations and fundraising at the forefront, so they're collaborating, and then also just for longevity and sustainability, the pressure wouldn't fall into one person. I have not been an executive director before this role, so I can't speak to it directly, but I know just from talking with other folks, it's a really hard job. It's a really lonely job. So to be able to have another person who also shares that load and shares that responsibility is, uh, I'm sure, the only reason I have been able to last this long. Um, so a day to day, I am in charge of our fundraising. We now have another fundraising person on staff, which is amazing. But I've been the head of our fundraising for several years. So a day might be working on grants in the background, or working on an appeal, or working on client interviews to be able to highlight in our messaging. I also do our operations, so it could be some admin work, it could be board communications. But we are open to the public 3 days a week, and you never quite know what's going to happen during open hours. I'm often also in the supply room helping out, or either helping clients directly or in the background bagging down food. I'm in our clinic area helping with check-in or helping to answer the door. Even if we have a schedule that we know of people who are coming in our pet supply bank, we are just, we're open and we're Googleable. So people come here asking all kinds of questions and advice, whether we can help or try to steer them in the best resource possible. So I get to wear many, many different hats, and it is chaotic and also what I do love about the work.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I'm bookmarking in my head about, being able to split responsibilities and creating probably that sustainable model.
Hmm.
I think was really great. But I'm curious if there are misconceptions that you're that you run into from the public about the work that you're doing, or just what it even means. Because sometimes I guess I think about homelessness in particular and animal care and welfare. And I'm wondering if you're fielding misconceptions on a regular basis about just a variety of topics and what those might be, or what you'd want people to know or understand.
Yeah, I definitely sometimes. I think, and this is just my own bubble, I guess, that I'm in, that I think I talk so much to people who are drawn to PAW Team, who are volunteering here, who are supporting us, who are interested in our work, that it's then a self-selecting pool. Whereas I guess, fortunately, I just don't have the opportunity too often to talk to people who may be disinterested in our work. But it does happen sometimes. And even people who are really interested in the work may come with different preconceived notions until they've spent some time here. So people might come in with a kind of savior idea of like, oh, I want to help the pets, like these poor pets. But again, we are really focused on providing compassionate services to both pets and their people here. And that people quickly learn that lesson when they're here, and I think embrace it as well. Um, but yeah, I mean, there are definitely conceptions out there about, how people can be capable of taking care of their pets if they're unhoused, for example. A lot of the folks that we serve are unhoused, but a lot of them are housed and just living in poverty. Um, I think a couple of things, like, yes, there are, unfortunately, bad pet owners and pet parents out in the world. And that is a fact, regardless of how much income you have and regardless of the shelter above your head. At Paw Team, we see people who are seeking care for their pets. So that's another self-selecting pool, right? People are coming to us because they love their pets and want to find care for their pets. It's also recognizing that there's a huge vulnerability in asking for help. And so sometimes it's hard for people to even access our services because they're nervous they will be judged. They're nervous about the condition that their pet is already in, and that their pet might be taken away from them if they seek care. Um, there is a reality that, people who live in poverty, veterinary care is not the only service they have had trouble accessing, right? There have been likely bad experiences accessing their own healthcare, or navigating housing systems, navigating education systems, right? There are all kinds of systems that folks who are living in poverty face, and barriers that they encounter along the way. So hopefully PAW Team isn't, but the veterinary world is sometimes seen as similar, where it's just another complicated system that people are expecting to have to battle through. So it's recognizing all of those factors
Mhm.
and just being glad when someone then comes to seek care. Like, thank you so much for trusting us to take care of your beloved companion. We're here to support the two of you. Um, I also think when it comes to folks who are unhoused specifically, yeah, there can be this idea that their pets aren't getting the treatment that they need, but I don't know, like I'm here in my office right now, my dog is home alone. And thankfully my partner has a different work schedule, so he'll be home soon. But the clients that we see, they are glued to their pets all the time. That pet gets to be with their favorite person 24 hours a day. And that's something that is rare to see in other parts of our community.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
if that helps to answer the question.
Oh no, I think that's lovely, and I think it can't be understated that yeah, animals care or welfare doesn't have to be tied into someone's resources,
Yeah.
right? That like
And I do think that this issue is getting more attention now, both in good and difficult ways. In Portland specifically, I mean, not only Portland, but in Portland, there is a very hot and unfortunately like politicized debate over folks who are in house and folks who don't have access to shelter and drug use and open drug use in the community. And so it's already just a problem where people are then pitted against each other and people are then mad at the other people who don't have access to services for existing because it's causing inconveniences. There's garbage on the street, things like that. So it already becomes this like charged issue, and then pets are seen as kind of an innocent in the situation. Um, which I can come back to more on. I mean, there's a whole discussion of like, well, pets shouldn't be in this condition, and neither should people, and we should provide the services that everyone needs to thrive. But that's a whole different conversation. But I do think that COVID did change a lot of people's perception, and I hope that that has continued where I think a lot of people realized how quickly everything can change and how quickly you can lose a job and your income can fall apart. And um, none of us are going to be billionaires, but it's very easy to slip and lose everything. So I think there's a bit more understanding of that and realizing that people's circumstance. Um, is what it is, and we're then here to support each other.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's a very compassionate approach holistically too, which is
Yeah.
yeah. So obviously at the core of this podcast, we talk about resiliency, what it takes to continue to do the work, and what you see. In this case, it'd be particularly with the humans and the animals that you work with. But how do you define resilience?
I guess that's defining resilience. I guess it's just the ability to keep going. Resilience doesn't, I don't think it doesn't have to look pretty all the time, or resilience doesn't mean graceful. I think it just means the ability to keep on plugging away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. In this work, have you had times when you felt particularly challenged or felt like I'm not sure, how long I can do this kind of work for, or felt like
Yes.
yes.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. All the time. And some more than others. Like I think this is a hard time to talk about resiliency, honestly. Um, and not that there haven't been hard times before. I think also pretty soon after I took on this work, it just being in like the depths of 2020 and not knowing how to navigate my own world on a day-to-day basis, let alone then feeling the responsibility of the organization and the other people who worked here who were also just trying to get through the day, and our clients who were trying to get through the day. It was a lot of external emotions to take on. But right now is another really hard time, and almost similarly has that relatable feeling to 2020 of just not knowing what's around the corner. Um, I mean, I'm sure you've explored this a lot in your podcast, but the shelters are over capacity. There's a spay and neuter crisis in Portland, and I know beyond as well. Um, at PAW Team, we really have a unique view on pets who are in need of help, pets who come in, sick or unwell or who have, been very uncomfortable. And then also people who are in crisis and who are in need, and holding space for the depths of both of those feelings is really hard sometimes. Um, just this week, I've heard from more than one client about how they are scared because they don't know how they're going to eat next month, because they won't be getting their food stamps in November. Um, and that's just a very firm reality. It's not a like, oh, what will happen if it's a, I just got to notice that I won't be getting food stamps and
Mhm.
I don't know how I'll eat and I don't know how my pet will eat.
Mhm.
That's hard. That's really, really scary. And I don't have an answer for that, right? I don't control that. There are ice raids happening all over Portland, and we know directly impacting some of the communities that we work with. It's just exhausting, really, to try to think about it all and like being in this role. Plot team, one of our huge benefits is that we are very small, so we can pivot, we can make changes, we can adapt to what people are needing. And so right now we're like, okay, what direction do we need to pivot and how are we pivoting? What do we think about the long term? Sure, we could bulk up food, pet food for November, but what comes after November? And I don't have any answers right now, and that for a person who loves control is very hard. um, it's a really exhausting place to be in, and I then feel really selfish, like being exhausted by that, right? Like I am not that person who is scared to eat next month, but I am hearing it and feeling it every day. And I think this work comes with a lot of guilt, or can easily come with a lot of guilt, because the people who are drawn to this work are sensitive and empathetic and
Mhm.
want to help. That's why we do this work. And then the realities of seeing that there's no finish line ever can be really exhausting. It's a reason that I did thrive in food service is, at the end of the day, like you finish your tasks, you wipe the counter clean, and then you're done. Like there's nothing left to make. But there really is no end to this work, even when you think you're like on it and you're serving more people and you did something really well, or you got a great grant, or you had a huge clinic that served more people than ever. The line never ends. And that is really hard to recognize. But I think the self-talk I have to give myself right now, is really just to focus on those small steps, is to focus on the local. Like I can't impact our federal budget right now, but I can ensure that the people I see in our space feel safe and welcome and are treated with dignity and get the services that they need. Um, I can Yeah, I can. Gosh, I got to go to a conference earlier this year for the first time through PAW Team that was really, really exciting. It was through a grant we had. Um, and there was a keynote speaker, wish I could remember her name right now. And she talked about um, passing on the torch and like seeing work in nonprofit work in general as kind of a relay where you won't be able to solve the problem that week or maybe even in your lifetime. Like the issue will not be solved, and all you can do is like when you start the job you pick up the torch and you can do as much as you can for as long as you can, and then you pass off the torch to the next person. And so I think about that probably every day where I'm like I'm just carrying the torch. I'm carrying the torch as far as I can, until I don't anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really helpful visualization, and I think it gives you permission to uh, not have to feel like you're supposed to solve all the
Hmm.
problems, or
Yeah.
yeah, take it all on yourself, which I think is necessary to be able to feel like you can keep going. Because yeah, I'm I can only imagine the level of exhaustion that comes
Mhm.
from facing problems that don't have solutions, really, in
Mhm.
many ways. But I also appreciate the sentiment, which is something that I often talk with my own clients in, because the global and national unease of everything is really overwhelming for people. But
Mhm.
kind of coming back into more of a micro focus, looking at your own community or even just what's happening in your own household, and what do you have control over, what can you influence, and I think that gives us a little more sense of empowerment.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. um, so you mentioned self-talk being something
Mhm.
that allows you to stay resilient. What are some other things that you need to do for yourself to keep yourself well enough?
Um, yeah, I mean, I think it's important because of this nature of work. It's something I relate to my coworkers all the time because of course, I'm much better at giving advice than I am taking it. Um, but because there isn't necessarily a definite end, you just have to create those endpoints. So um, it's not that the work ends at 5 or 6 or 7 o'clock whenever you decide to leave, but it has to because it will be there when you come back. And you have to create boxes for yourself to do something else. I definitely felt that. Again, like when I first took on this role, I think I also had a sense of like, yeah, I'll just work really hard and then suddenly it'll all make sense. And that didn't happen. And so at some point I was like, okay, I guess if I want to keep doing this, I have to, there's no end. So I got to figure out some light along the way. And doing things outside of this work helps me remember that there is a whole big wide world out there. And as much as PAW Team is the center of my world, it's not the world. um, yeah, so I mean, personally, I really like to get outside. I have a dog and she goes running with me. Um, I like to dance. I'm a hobby enthusiast. I like to take on lots of different activities and then abandon them along the way. But personally, I need to be physically active. It helps me disengage from everything else. And having something to do after work can really help me
Hmm.
turn the lens to something else, or else work will just kind of
Yeah.
keep spinning around in my noggin until I have another activity to help me shift gears. Um, yeah, I have side jobs, which uh, isn't it's kind of a blessing and a curse sometimes, but um, I take them on because again, it helps me focus in another world for a little while and remember that there is a lot more out there. So anything you can do for those reminders, and yeah, for me it might be running or dance, but I think for anybody it just has to be like whatever can fill that cup back up, so that you can keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that those are really great coping strategies. I mean,
Hmm.
especially, trying to figure out that boundary of, start and stop times for work as
Hmm.
best as you can. So that it's not consuming your whole life.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, how do you know what are your signs when your cup is low or empty?
Oh man, I should probably get better at recognizing them ahead of time. um yeah, I mean, I think one is just pretty like sheer exhaustion. I think I recognize that like I am a pretty energetic person by nature. And this a lot of this work does like really keep me focused and interested. But if I start having days where I'm just like not excited to interact with somebody, then that's like okay, because I'm running on the fumes here. And I know that I tend to get more emotionally sensitive when my cup is running dry. I'm like a little easier to cry, a little easier to snap at my partner, those sorts of things. I'll definitely take it out at home where if I feel like things are hard at work or particularly draining, then I'll really like overcompensate by trying to be too controlling at home, be like, all right, everything will be resolved if the kitchen is clean enough, like everything will be fine. And weirdly, it's not. Yeah, I think I feel it in my body, and also just if I'm yeah, when I'm a little bit more sensitive than normal, then it's like, okay, maybe need a little bit of extra time to myself to just walk the dog and listen to music or listen to a podcast, just kind of tune everything out.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And would you say that seasonally there are different pressures that come up? I mean, we're coming into the rainy season, the holiday season, of course, too. I mean, in the work
Yeah.
you do, does that pose new or different challenges?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think that we have an ebb and flow where in terms of people coming to the door, and like the line at the supply room, I think we are generally busier in the summer.
Okay.
And that's for a few reasons. Like people are, if we're talking about clients who are more like travelers passing through town, the summer tends to be a hot spot. Also, it's just easier for people to like take the bus across town if it's not raining, go get their stuff. Um, so I do think we always see a spike in the summer. Otherwise, it's not controlled by the season, and it is just
Hmm.
like when, and gosh, I think it was like 2022 when SNAP benefits were suddenly like the COVID assistance finally ended. We saw a huge spike after that. And so then people will be posting in their mutual aid groups, and people will be posting on Nextdoor or asking for help. And then word of mouth just like spreads rapidly in moments of need. So we're bracing for a busy season.
Okay.
Um, but I do think that this time of year particularly is a little extra draining, because the weather suddenly shifts and it's really rainy today. We're doing an offsite clinic tomorrow where it'll be really rainy. Our last clinic that we had here was rainy. People's moods change. Like our clients, especially folks who are unsheltered, it's like, all right, you go from working with someone who, is in survival mode to begin with, but who then has been like wet and cold for 3 days, right? And like their mood is on edge. And then that influences you. And just everyone's a little bit more like soggy and sad and on edge. And then we do, because we are a small team, everything impacts everyone. So I have a lot of extra fundraising work to do in November and December, a lot of extra events that we get invited to, supply drives, deadlines that I have. We're part of like an online campaign here where we're doing lots of extra messaging than we normally are. And so my wonderful team gets invited to all kinds of extra events that they don't normally have to go to at other times of the year. And so I do feel like by the time the end of December rolls around, we are all kind of limping to the finish line. And at least for me, I definitely always have a reset moment right around the new year where I just try to take a breath and like, oof, okay, I know that not everything reinvents itself in January, but um, at least like emotionally, I try to have a bit of a reset. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds much needed, and I'm sure that these higher volume, higher stress days, weeks,
Mhm.
months need particular care just to yours and your team's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are there any particular stories of resilience that you've witnessed, whether it's to members in the community or animals or anything that stands out to you? Anything that's touched you in particular?
Yeah, that is hard. I feel like there are just so many examples. It's really hard to share individual ones. I think every day at Pod Team we see so much resilience, and I mean some of it's from our team, right? For a lot of reasons. One, the people who work here work so hard to every day and have I don't want to say they have endless compassion because we were just talking about how none of us do, and your cup gets empty. They are also human, but it seems endless. Like I'm always so impressed by the people who work here and how much care they have for the organization. And then the people who come and volunteer here. Like we have veterinarians and vet assistants who maybe burn out in their regular world and doing really difficult work, with very little things. And then they're like, oh, I have a free day. Let me go do that for free and do it for more people. I'm just always So incredibly grateful. But then our clients have really they have a lot going on in their lives. Folks who come here, of course, again, a variety of backgrounds, a variety of reasons that they find our services. But some of the people who come here really are in survival mode. They are navigating so many challenging situations at home. They could be leaving an unsafe home. They could be navigating some really complex health or are a caretaker for someone who has really complex health needs. They could be chronically unhoused for decades and have not been able to get a space to feel safe. And then they're prioritizing their pet and all of that. They're remembering to place the order on time for their prescription refills. They're coming in with questions about the minute change in their pet's demeanor and how that might be a reaction to the medication, or like do they need to change anything. Just the ability to focus and listen to their pet's needs and um, manage is really really impressive, and I'm just so glad that we're here to provide that service. um, yeah, I'm like trying to think of some individual ones. Gosh, I don't know. Um, yeah, I don't know. I really do feel like every day we're touched by folks, and we see a lot of people. So there are plenty of people that come here that I do not know and will not remember the name of, and they might only come here once. But especially being at this organization a long time, there are clients who have been coming to PAW Team since before I started here, and so I've now known them for 7 years, and see them. Some folks more often than others. Some folks are frequent flyers and come by once a month. There are some people who bring us treats or make us cookies and come and visit. And uh, I just feel very humbled that like PAW Team plays such a role in their life that they want to come and see us. Not just like I never had that close of a relationship with my pet's veterinarian, right? Um, like I feel like we're more than just a veterinary clinic. We are also just a hub um, of pet services and advice and information, and also just a way to connect. And uh, a lot of our clients may not have a lot of other social connection and or opportunities for just joy and fun. And so whenever we can create that, this is probably not really a story of resiliency. I'm probably going off on a tangent, but we have an event every year called Pet Photos with Santa Paws. The idea is that people can bring their pets in for photos with Santa. And it's an open house event. So it's both for our supporters as well as our clients. And it is so fun. Like it's really silly. It's like a sort of a fundraiser, but really just an opportunity to bring more people in and learn about Paw Team. Um, but one, I love having an event that everyone is integrated, right? Like you wouldn't know who is a supporter and who is seeking services. And also that it's just based in fun. Like a lot of our clients do come in because either they're in crisis or because their pet is in crisis. And that's just very stressful and hard to navigate. They're here because they have had no other option. They've run into dead ends. They need something for their pet. But to then have a day where people come in because they want to like make a craft and get some hot chocolate and then put their pet in a silly costume and take a picture and then walk away with a silly Christmas toy. Like we hoard every holiday related supply we get throughout the year until the end of the year, and it's just a bonanza. It's just very joy centered, and it's something that I'm really proud of. And it's maybe not the most important thing that we do, but it is really a lovely moment to have and to share with our community. And
Yeah.
maybe that's a little moment of resilience, even though it's not about anyone in particular.
Well, I think that it's those things are actually, I think, incredibly impactful because
Mhm.
you mentioned people being in survival mode, which is really that sense of not having safety. And I think that
Yes.
when I'm working with my clients, some of the things that we talk about are how to remind your nervous system, right, that you're safe or you're okay in that moment. And when you're able to have play, right, and
Mhm.
laughter and positive social connection, that's a reminder to our nervous system that we're safe in that moment. And so I actually think that's a very impactful thing that you're able to provide, even if it's just
Yeah.
for a day,
Yeah.
that's huge for people. So
Yeah, it's so cute. And I think I mean, again, it comes at this time of year when like I've already asked everyone who works here to stretch themselves so unbelievably thin. And then it's like, all right, guys, one more day. Let's throw up some tinsel. Let's really go to town. But it is also just like a really silly, fun moment to be able to like decorate our office with like an abundance of tinsel and stockings. Uh, yeah, any end of your holiday will do. It's just fun.
great. That's awesome.
Mhm.
What has this work taught you about yourself?
Hmm. Um, I've learned a lot about myself. I feel like I've grown into myself in this role over the last several years now. Um, I both like I've learned both good and bad things about myself, I think. Um, I have learned that I'm capable of a lot more than I had thought. I definitely like grew a huge amount of confidence over my time in this work, and because I think I learned that if I just go for it, like it happens. And I, I have limits to my skills, and so I recognize that and can pull and help. But I think the ability, again, to like let go of some of that imposter syndrome, if there's um something that I haven't encountered before that I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe it's like shopping for liability insurance, like just even the most like minute tax related stuff that, I had no background in before this. And it's only one little corner of my job here. Like I have a lot of different roles. Just asking questions and not being afraid to sound like I don't know what I'm talking about and ask the person who does know things what to do or like, what do you mean by this? And knowing that that's okay and that I don't um like no one expects me to, I guess. And yeah, the amount like since I've taken on this role, my co-director and I, like the organization has grown. We've served more people. We have doubled in staff. We just recently expanded our actual space to take over like an empty office that was right next to us. So we're going to be growing our clinics. We're doubling our square footage. It's just to be able to see PAW Team growing so much. Like my main goal when I took on this job was to not fail the organization. I was like, staying consistent would be just fine. As long as it doesn't crash and burn, I'll be great. And then to see it actually growing and in some ways thriving is something I'm really, really proud of. I'm really proud of the team that I've cultivated. I think we have an incredible group of people who work here and who volunteer here. And like it took a village to do that, so I'm not taking all the credit for that, but I'm really proud of my role in it. So I've just gained a lot of confidence realizing that you do just have to put the energy and compassion in and be genuine and as honest and as authentic as you can be, and um it will grow. It's that like watering a garden and then the garden grows kind of thing. um I have also learned that, I struggle with conflict, which I guess was not a surprise, but there have just been challenges in this job that yeah, I've had to really like put on my big girl pants sometimes and have conversations that I didn't want to have that in the past I would have just not. I would have avoided it with all of my being, but um I learned that I do have a huge problem saying no. And I think a lot of people in this work too. And um, I kind of joke about it, but it is a thing I'm starting to take more seriously now, where I'm like, oh, okay, this might actually be a problem. And I need to find the ways that I can work in some no's here and there. Because I do want it to be sustainable. I love the organization and I want to be able to stay here. So what work do I need to do on myself in order to be able to be here for the long haul?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, thank you for that. I mean, I know it's sometimes it's hard to talk about even the things that we struggle with and
Yeah.
be honest with that. But I think it's really important, and especially as a leader, being able to have those emotional boundaries too, to say no or to demonstrate, you know,
Hmm.
you can have conflict,
Hmm.
but most people that I get to work with don't like conflict either. So
Yeah.
that's a lot of coaching that we do too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Remembering that I have to model for people is often a big inspiration. Like when it comes to taking time off, like I would never want anyone else to feel guilty about taking time. So like I guess I gotta do it too. And now I am a lot better at it now than I was maybe a few years ago. And because I recognize like I need it, and also I don't want to unintentionally like make myself into a martyr that other people like that's not setting the example that I want to have in a healthy working environment. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can tell that the work that you do is very fulfilling to you. It sounds like it really met that need of wanting to kind of explore that social work capacity,
Hmm.
doing so much of that day to day. And the fact that you guys are growing and expanding and trying to keep up with everything, I think says a lot
Yeah.
about the team and what you guys have been able to do together.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
If people who don't know about you
Hmm.
would like to support you, how can they do that? Are there things that you want to promote today?
Yeah, the work is always happening. So whether it be volunteering or contributing, we like any nonprofit rely on donations, monetary and in-kind donations. Our pet supply bank runs entirely on donated goods. It's all pet food that's been donated from people, from stores, from occasionally larger companies. Um, individuals will bring items that their pet either no longer needs or from former pets, and we're just so honored to be able to give that stuff new life by passing it on to a family who will love it. So pawteam.org is how people find us and can support our work. Um, we'll be in the Portland's Willamette Week Give Guide throughout November and December, which is an online giving platform. We'll have some various events that we're hosting in November and December. Lots of little outreach events, but our Santa Paws event in December is very fun. If people want to come by and get a photo with their pet with Santa. But yeah, just any way that folks want to get involved really does help the organization. The more visibility we get, the more funding we get, the more items we get, it all just directly helps the community that we serve.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. And 25 years is a big accomplishment for an organization. So
Hmm.
obviously you guys are meeting a very important need and people see
Yeah.
that and continue to contribute. So yes,
Yeah.
if you're listening, obviously, feel free to check out PAW Team and what Nicole and her team are up to. And Nicole, thank you for taking time, particularly as we come into a busier time for you. And yeah, hopefully you can keep finding moments for yourself during this
Yeah.
time.
Well, thank you so much. It was really fun. Thanks for having me. Thanks for reaching out.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you. Thank you again to Nicole Perkins of Portland Animal Welfare Team, or PAW Team. And if you were moved by this episode, share it with a friend, like, subscribe, follow us on Instagram at animal.rescuehub, and review. Until next time, may we all find our own tale of resilience. Thanks for joining us on Tales of Resilience. If today's story moved you, reminded you of your own path, or gave you something to think about, please consider sharing this episode with someone else who cares. You can follow us on Instagram at zodi.paws and animal.rescuehub to stay connected, or visit zodipaws.com or animalrescuehub.org to learn more about both of these organizations. And you can also email us directly at info@animalrescuehub.org. And if you or someone you know has a story worth sharing, we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, be kind to yourself and never underestimate the power of a tale and a little resilience.